Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to, I guess this is our third virtual candidate event. As we do normally, we'll go through the night and kind of do all our thank yous and work through the nuts and bolts of this. But to get started, I'll go over the ground rules and how the event's going to go tonight. We have a panel of 4 panelists who will introduce themselves in a moment, and we'll have various candidates through the evening. The idea is we're going to go through the Republican primary for the state attorney's office, the Republican primary for Monroe County Commission, the Republican primary for state representative, District 120, and then we'll be finishing the evening off with the Key West mayor's race, which is nonpartisan. But in that race, with 3 people running, if nobody gets 50% plus 1 vote, they'll go into a runoff. So we're doing that in the primary here, so that's how it works. The panelists will ask questions. You'll get to know them in a few minutes. They control the questions and who the question goes to. The candidates will have 1 minute to answer. And this is a very important part of this. If in your answer you call out your candidate or call out your opponent or say your opponent's name, we will give your opponent a chance to respond. And they'll have 30 seconds. And turnabout, fair play, if they then mention the other candidate, we'll go back and forth. And we'll stop it if it gets boring or too out of hand. What we tend to say is, why give your opponent extra time? But some people will. Let's just get right into it. First, we'd like the panelists to introduce themselves, tell us who you are, and a little bit about yourself, briefly. Start with Bill, down at the end.
Bill Becker, News Director with US 1 Radio and Florida Keys Media. Been doing it 40 years, and this is my last year.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Holst. I'm an attorney and a business owner here in Key West. I have been involved in a lot of different organizations, also previously served on the Key West Citizen editorial board with my friend Todd over there. And I've done this, gosh, many times now. I lost track. I've been on a panelist on with Hometown Pack, so I'm here again.
Thanks for having me. My name is Mandy Miles. I am the editor of the Key West Weekly newspaper. I've been in Key West covering news and local people and issues since 1998, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
Thank
you. I'm Stephanie Caple. I am the Executive Director of the Florida Keys Outreach Coalition and a Board of Director for the Monroe County Homeless Continuum of Care, and the current chair of the Long-Term Recovery Group for Monroe County, addressing the causes of Hurricane Irma still. And that's about it.
Thanks. And Clinton, one bit of housekeeping I'd like to get out of the way. Would you zoom in on Stephanie's shoes, please? She runs a shoe blog for many years. And
this election's already been decided, and I've won.
Thank you. Now, on to our candidates. Dennis, would you, brief introduction. It's not an opening statement. It's just an introduction of your name and who you are.
Dennis Ward, State Attorney.
That works. Mark?
Mark Cole, former State Attorney.
Another ground rule or a suggestion, and these guys just nailed it. Don't talk to us, talk to the camera, because the audience, this should be, assuming our technical stuff works, the biggest audience we've ever had. So let's just get right to it. Bill, why don't you lead us off?
Okay, first question for Dennis Ward. Party politics here very often don't match up with national party politics. You know, we often have very liberal Republicans or conservative Democrats around here. You first ran as a Democrat for state attorney and won, and then you switched parties. Tell us a little bit about your reasoning behind switching parties and where that puts you in relation to our president, because a lot of people are asking about matching local party politics with national politics this year.
Yeah, as you recall, Bill, I was the state attorney from 2009 to 2013, and there was a significant amount of corruption. I prosecuted a lot of the corruption. School superintendent, his wife, FDLE agent in chief down here, people selling iPads and what have you out of the back of County Hall. And when it came time to run for re-election in 2012, the primary was shut by my opponents. One ran as a Democrat, one ran as a Republican, and I lost in the Democratic primary. The next day I became a Republican because I didn't want to be part of a party that's going to vote somebody out for fighting corruption. So I'm my own man. I'm not President Trump's man. I have a lot of issues that cross over with both parties and are pretty much acceptable. So I hope that answered your question.
Jennifer.
This question is for Mark Cole. You state in your campaign literature that it is time to put an ethical leader back in the state attorney's office. What do you allege that the incumbent Dennis Ward has done, or his office has done, that is unethical during his tenure as state attorney?
Well, it's an easy one to answer, but it's a long list. We can start off with the ex parte communications that he's had with judges. We have ex parte communications that he's conducted with jurors. We have the assistant state attorney that was just suspended by the Florida Bar for unethical conduct. We've got a number of things that are going on. Every time I turn around, there's something new. You know, last week I just discovered that my opponent put his girlfriend on the payroll back in July of last year. And while there's nothing legally wrong with it, you know, that just smacks of something that should never happen. Somebody that he lives with, his girlfriend, being put on the payroll in his office. It shows poor judgment, in my opinion, and it's another example of so many different things that are going on. There's been a recent opinion from the 3rd District Court of Appeals where the judges made the statement that, you know, not only did Mr. Ward show poor judgment, but that he showed, you know, more than poor judgment.
1 minute. And Dennis, you obviously get to respond.
Now?
30 seconds, if you like.
Sure. Mr. Cole was in charge of the office when the bar complaint came in on the assistant state attorney. He wants to bring it up now, but he had an opportunity, if he felt so strongly, to get rid of that attorney. Mr. Cole cites an opinion, a dissenting opinion in a house burglar, a career burglar that we convicted for 15 years. The dissenting opinion mentioned something like that. The two judges that were in the majority did not. Mr. Cole is in this race basically to get a $100,000 job. He's teamed up with the Democratic Party, and that's what he's here for.
30 seconds.
Do I get 30 seconds now?
Yes.
Okay, first off, insofar as my being in charge of HR, he's correct. However, I did not have the authority to fire an assistant state attorney. That was a privilege that was held by the then state attorney, Catherine Vogel, and I did not have the authority to do that. In regards to the opinion, Mr. Ward needs to go back and read it again, because if you read the original opinion, the two judges that formed the basis of the opinion said that he exercised poor judgment. It was the third one that said he exercised more than poor judgment in the dissent. And I don't remember what the third thing was he said, and I'm out of time, so.
Dennis, you want to respond? You want to go on to?
No, I've listened to this the whole campaign. The guy's got no positive things that are going to move the office forward.
Mandy.
Dennis Ward.
Yes.
Illegal rentals and other, illegal Airbnbs and other illegal vacation rentals are taking a toll on the Florida Keys long-term rental inventory. What actions in the past 4 years has your office taken to investigate and prosecute these vacation rentals in Monroe County and specifically Key West?
Well, I've done a lot of work with the tax collector, Denise Enriquez. We put together a little committee, and we've charged and arrested a husband and wife up in the Upper Keys for not paying the taxes that they're required to pay to the state. And that's a pending case, and as soon as we can get the courtrooms open to where we can try these things, you'll see that case come to trial. We continue to work with the tax collector, and she's just been really great to work with, and my chief investigator, Chris Weber. They've built a bond together, and we're looking at other ones.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Phishing cases carry a mandatory jail policy, yet some other crimes, like violent crimes, do not. Are we over-policing fish and under-policing people or prosecuting?
Who do you want to answer?
That can be for either.
Okay, well, let's have Mark start and
Well, the mandatory jail time for undersized lobster, I think, is incorrect. Every case is different, and every case needs to be looked at on its own merits. If you've got a situation with a couple of college kids that are down here on spring break, and they goof up the fishing regulations, and they take a lobster that's just, barely short, I think jail time is inappropriate for that. I think pretrial intervention or something along those lines is the proper way of handling it. On the other hand, if you got somebody who's taken, 15 or 20 of them and taking them out of season, I've got no problem with jail time for people that are, blatantly ignoring the laws. But I just think it's wrong to create a mandatory jail time for those types of situations, and especially when you look at it in, conjunction with the other crimes that are out there. There are crimes that I think are much more important, and that's where our prosecutorial efforts ought to lie. I'm not saying we should let the other cases go, but I'm saying that we should be, asking for mandatory jail time on things like repeat offenders for domestic violence. That's the appropriate.
Dennis, 1 minute.
Yeah, everyone knows just last night, 16 lobsters, 12 of them undersized, all speared. There's going to be some jail time in there for that one. We don't start the policy till they get to the third one over, and I have a great deal of faith in our Fish and Wildlife officers and our Sheriff's Office people and the Key West Police Department. They're not going to arrest some tourist for possession of one undersized lobster. I mean, that's just ridiculous. This is what this whole campaign is about. He's with a group of defense attorneys, even though he hasn't been in court in 10, 12 years, that are against this policy. He's in this thing to get a job, $100,000 a year job as the executive director. The policy is good. We have to protect our natural resources. They're a big hub in this economy. It's not only with lobster, it's with fish as well.
Thank you, Dennis. Mark, you get 30 seconds.
Well, I might not have been in court for the last couple of years, but at least I've tried in excess of 400 jury trials during the course of my time as a prosecutor. I've been a career prosecutor. I started working at the state attorney's office in West Palm Beach in 1977. I've got 32 years here in Monroe County. Most of the 32 years I was in practice. I was doing private practice in addition to being a prosecutor. I've handled many, many cases, many of them felonies, most of them felonies, whereas my opponent has never handled a felony case in his entire career.
You're doing so good, and now Dennis gets...
Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I want to hear him respond to that.
I used to put those felony cases together. I've been in the criminal justice system in South Florida for 48 years as a law enforcement officer, as an assistant state attorney, as an assistant public defender. I opened a successful criminal law practice, all right, and represented hundreds of people. I've been to trials a couple hundred times. It's just that I have the ability to manage an office. I'm not taking a job as a prosecutor. I'm taking a job as an administrator, something you failed at. I did a great job, and I continue to do a great job on that.
Can we move on to questions?
Sure.
All right. You see why that rule is so important. Bill.
Question for Mr. Cole. You were the state attorney back when the county commission was dominated by the Gang of Three. There was a point where two of those commissioners admitted that they violated the Sunshine Law. We know this because they did it on the air live. When you came time, it was an open shut case, basically. It was a violation. They discussed the matter that should have been discussed during the commission meeting, and they discussed it in private. Instead of punishing those two, you made all 5 commissioners sit through a 1-hour tutorial on the Sunshine Law. Why did you punish 3 commissioners who are innocent and let the other 2 go on rather an easy sentence? And what message does this send to current elected officials?
Okay, let me start off by saying that your premise is incorrect. Okay, we prosecuted those 2, and we asked them to go through a pretrial intervention program. Part of the problem with the Sunshine Law is a lot of our elected officials don't understand it. Now, that doesn't mean we should lock them up in jail every time they violate it. What I did is I made a condition of their pretrial intervention program, which was part of their prosecution, that they attend a lecture on the Sunshine Law, and I opened it up to any other elected official that wanted to attend. I was asked by I think it was the county administrator at the time, to make that presentation, for those 2 at the county commission meeting where the others could attend. They could have gotten up and walked out if they had wanted to. They elected. Basically, they asked me if they could sit in during the course of that lecture so that they could have the benefit of it. And it wasn't just them. There were school board officials and city officials that showed up for that very same lecture. And they all sat through it and they all got educated. Had they come back and violated it again, then I would have gone for something significantly stronger than just, pretrial intervention.
Well, I was going to say, so future
Bill, the rule doesn't really-
violations can be subject to another lecture?
The 30 seconds doesn't get to go for you guys.
I'll let Bill have my 30 seconds.
Why not? Bill, do your rebuttal there.
Well, I was going to say, I know there were several commissioners who resented the fact that they were being punished equally as the ones who were guilty. I know that for a fact. And I'm just saying, future violations of sunshine law, can they expect another lecture?
Not if they sat through the lecture. That's number one. And number two, I didn't make them sit through the lecture. I didn't force them to. I offered it open to any elected official that wanted, actually to anybody that wanted to attend, especially to elected officials, and they're the ones that elected to attend.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Bill. Jennifer.
This question's also for Mark Cole. Now that you've had...
I'm sorry to interrupt. Clinton and Kelly, can you verify our live stream? I've got a couple messages said it stopped, and I apologize to break in. Technology is always the hardest part of all this. But go ahead, Jennifer. We're recording anyway, so we'll keep things going, and they'll keep working on it.
Mark, now that you've had time to reflect on your prior experience as state attorney, what lessons have you learned, and what would you do differently this time if you were elected for another term?
Well, it's an interesting question. I don't know that I would do anything significantly different. One of the strong points of my, previous administration was I hired really good people, and I let them do their job, and I stayed out of their way, and I did everything I could to assist them in doing their job. I believe that's what the job of the state attorney is to give them the tools to do the job that they need to do. But you also have to bring in good people in order to do that. And that's one of the things that I was really good at, was getting excellent attorneys and investigators and people that could do the job and were willing to do the job. And we actually had a good, fun place to work. It was enjoyable to go to work in the mornings. And I think most of my employees felt that way also. So, I don't know that I'd do anything significantly different than what I did before.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Mandy.
This is probably for both of them, actually, but it is no secret that you two are not at all each other's biggest fans. But if you do
I'm
not,
shocked.
if you do not get the Republican nomination in August, who will you support in November, both of you?
Start with Mark and go to Dennis.
Well, that's easy. I'll support Don Barrett.
Okay.
Okay. Dennis.
That's the whole deal. That's the whole deal. The same deal that he did in 2012 with Vogel. He folded his tent after she beat me in the primary, so he could get a $100,000 a year job. So it's obvious who he's going to support. I'm going to support the Republican.
Okay.
I don't know. Did he mention me?
I don't know how we're ever going to get through this if we don't move along a little bit. But
Well, my response to that is there is no deal in place. My objective here, and the whole reason that I'm running, is I think that he needs to go.
okay, that's fair.
Thank you.
And Dennis, that one really doesn't count.
No, just like he needed to go in 2008, right.
Okay, moving on. Stephanie.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
crime is down in Monroe County. Do you believe that any downward movement in crime statistics can be attributed to the state attorney's office?
Absolutely. It's the wonderful relationship that I've established and my staff has established with the law enforcement agencies up and down the Florida Keys. I've been told by the law enforcement agencies that never before has cooperation been so great with the state attorney's office. We work together, we build cases together. We're very successful in those cases. We've convicted every major criminal case that's come before the courts. We will continue to do that, provided we can get jurors in, because that's going to be very difficult. But yes, we've had a huge impact, and it's a message sending thing. We like to send messages up to people. Don't come down here and sling your drugs. Don't come down here and poach our lobster and our fish. Come down and have fun. We welcome you to come down, but just abide by the rules. So we work together. As a matter of fact, that lobster case I just talked about earlier, Sheriff Ramsey sent me that, said, we got this last night. So we have a very, very good working relationship with law enforcement.
Thank you, Dennis. Mark?
Well, the state attorney's office has something to do with it, but it's mostly law enforcement. But I'll tell you where it really comes into play, and that is with what the legislature did a number of years ago when they instituted the habitual offender statutes. Those provide for locking up individuals that commit crimes over and over and over again. And that's when the crime rate started going down. He talks about how his office, the crime rate has gone down, and he attributes that to his work. I used the same, plug when I ran, in my first 2 terms, that crime was down, and it was down consistently. And the real reason is because there's a small number of individuals that commit a large proportion of the crimes here in the United States. And our legislature has given us the tools in the habitual offender laws, like the 10-20 life strikes, the 3 strikes and you're out. Those people are getting locked up, and because they're locked up, they're not out committing those crimes, and that's why it's going down.
Thank you, Mark. Probably Bill.
Question for Dennis. What's your view on the stand your ground law, and how does that affect prosecutions here in Monroe County?
Well, the stand your ground law, it was put in by the legislature, so it's a law that we have to respect. It's a law that sometimes provides complications in moving forward and prosecuting some cases that are clearly murder cases, or people that are shot, people that are punched. It comes up in so many different ways. There was a good legal argument going back and forth, and finally the Supreme Court settled it. And now that it's solid law, we follow it, and we're going to take every angle we can to try and show that that type of defense was not proper in whatever the given crime is.
Thank you, Dennis. Jennifer?
Question for Mr. Ward. Are you anticipating any potential budget deficit in the aftermath of COVID-19? And if so, how would you deal with that if you're reelected?
Yeah, it's not even an anticipation. It's happening as we speak. When the governor signed the budget in, there was a provision for a 3% pay raise for all the state employees, and the governor let that go through, but there's a 1.5% reduction in the budget every quarter. So by the time we get to the end of this particular budget period, those employees will be down 3%, I think it comes out to, or something. So it's, and that's without the legislature being in session. Who knows what they're going to do, because they're not going to do anything until after November 3rd, because a lot of them are running for election or re-election. They can't collect money, campaign contributions while they're in session. So we expect to see significant cuts next year as well. And I went through this during the recession. I ran the state attorney's office, and it created a hardship for us, but the employees that I hire are very, very good employees, and they picked up the slack. And just recently, we hired a new prosecutor in Marathon, and 2 new prosecutors in Plantation Key, and that was to make up for the positions that we had lost.
Thanks. Mandy, this should probably go to Mark.
Tomorrow, okay, perfect. Mr. Cole, if elected, how would your office handle the accruing backlog of cases when it comes to the pandemic and the court system sort of being on hold? How would you work your way through that?
Well, one of the problems is going to be getting time in the courtroom. A defense attorney, one of the main tools that they use is a delay, and I've always been a proponent of the concept that justice delayed is justice denied, and we need to get those cases moving. One of the first things I would do is I would get a printout of every case that exists in the office and how old it is, and I would start going around and looking at those cases myself and having my supervising staff look at those cases, and let's figure out why the cases are as old as they are. And I've even toyed with the idea of having a little joke trophy to hand around to the assistant state attorney that has the oldest case in the office. And if you want to get rid of the turkey, then you got to get rid of that case that's been hanging on for 3-4 years. And I would hold my assistant state attorneys accountable. If they're not getting those cases disposed of, then they're not doing their jobs. And I would push to have that taken care of.
Tom, thanks.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
This can be for both, but that we're living with COVID, not living through COVID right now. And as Mr. Ward already mentioned, jury trials are an issue. How do we ensure that the people facing charges are having fair and equitable processes to get through those trials?
Okay, we'll start with Dennis, then Mark.
Well, the problem is getting jurors. I mean, you send out jury summonses and, you know, the first thing a potential juror sees in the mailbox is a jury summons. Hey, you got jury duty, and, you know, you don't know what their underlying illnesses are. So it's a big problem in just getting jurors in. You can't just say, well, I'm just going to go and put a turkey up and whoever's got the oldest case. The problem is trying to find an area where you can bring jurors in to voir dire, question jurors and see what their qualifications are, if they'd be a good juror for the defense, good juror for the prosecution, and you got to get them together. So I think up in Dade County, they just tried a virtual, a Zoom type of jury selection, but in civil cases. And civil cases are a lot less stringent than criminal cases. So that's the big problem, and there's a whole big committee up in Tallahassee that's working to try and resolve this issue. And the issue is jury trials and how you're going to get jurors in.
Thanks, Dennis. Time. Mark, same question.
He's correct. There is a committee up there that the Supreme Court has formed to take a look at how to address these issues. Those are some very intelligent individuals, and they're very knowledgeable about the system. And they are going to be making recommendations, not just to the Supreme Court, but for the rest of us to follow. And I would do everything I can to follow their recommendations and to make sure that things are done the way they're supposed to do, the way they're supposed to be done, because fairness is probably the most important thing of our criminal justice system.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, we're about done with this segment, so we'll do closing argument, or not closing arguments for you guys, closing statements, sorry. And the challenge here will be you guys each get a minute without calling the other one out, because the rule still applies. So, Mark, you go first, then Dennis, and we'll see how it goes. 1 minute.
Well,
why should we elect you?
The bottom line is that I'm a lifelong Republican, and I'm asking for the Republicans' votes on August the 18th in this primary election. I've been a resident here in Monroe County for over 32 years. I'm a career prosecutor. I've handled, in excess of 400 jury trials. I've handled thousands and thousands of cases throughout the course of my career as a prosecutor. Most of them felony cases. I started down here in Key West. I worked in the Key West office for 1.5 years. I worked in the Upper Keys office for 9 years as an assistant state attorney. I worked in the West Palm Beach State Attorney's Office for at least 5 years as an assistant state attorney. And I put in 8 years as the elected state attorney doing the job that I'm running for right now. And I'm hoping that the voters here in Monroe County will see fit to put me back into office. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Dennis, 1 minute.
Yeah, we've been very successful in this term as state attorney. We've gotten together, and as previously noted, the crime rate has dropped in 2018 and 2019 to over 30%. We'll have another drop this year as well, I believe. That's the good working relationship that my office and my employees have with the Sheriff's Office and the City of Key West and all the other law enforcement agencies that we deal with in the state of Florida and in Monroe County. We've also been very significant in these parasites that come and prey on individuals after natural disasters, especially after Hurricane Irma. We put a number of those people in prison and a number in county jail. And there's also some warrants that are outstanding for some that fled the jurisdiction. We've also put together a juvenile diversion program with the law enforcement agencies, where juveniles that commit crimes that are not violent crimes, possession of alcohol, possession of marijuana, fighting, etc. So we've put together some very good programs here, and I want to continue to do that in representing the people here of Monroe County and making sure that our citizens and visitors are safe and our natural resources are safe.
Thank you both. These men will. One of these guys will face Don Barrett for the state attorney's job after the primary. Okay, next up is going to be our Republican primary for the Monroe County Commission. And the winner of this will face non-party affiliated Jose Peixoto. While they're coming up, we'll do our thank yous, and we really can't thank the studios of Key West enough. For the people that are watching online, we have a huge auditorium here with candidates only, with no audience. And if anybody's ever dealt with these people, it's the worst audience in the world. They don't laugh, they don't moan, they don't groan. It's just us here. Come on up, fellas. For these guys, the same way, we're going to go through 3, maybe 4 rounds. We'll have them introduce each other, or not each other. God, can't talk, sorry. They'll introduce themselves here in a second. Okay. And we'll get started.
Order real quick.
Robbie, why don't you get us started? Who are you? What are you doing?
Okay. My name is Robbie Majaska. I live in Key Largo. I've lived in Key Largo for 22 years.
Very brief, not an opening statement, just...
Excuse me?
It's not an opening statement, just introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Robbie Majaska. You're a candidate for County Commission District 5.
Yes, I forgot you were a little late getting in. You didn't get the briefing.
Right.
Mike.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Forster. I'm running for County Commission District 5.
All right, thanks. Okay, going down. Jennifer, you start this round.
Okay. This is a question preferably for both. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the County Commission's response to the COVID-19 outbreak? And then as a follow-up, what do you think should have been done differently or better?
Mike, why don't you start?
Sure. So really, it's not just the County Commission that has the ultimate say in the COVID pandemic. It's really the team of 5 as far as the emergency management, and that's really who makes the decisions. I think the county has done the best they can with the circumstances that were presented themselves. There's not a playbook for this. Like there's a hurricane, we can get through hurricanes very easily, but a pandemic is really hard to deal with, and so I think a lot of things could have been done differently, but that's hindsight, and I'm not going to sit here and criticize for something that nobody knew what to expect in the long run.
Robbie, same question.
And just about the same answer. This is something we've never seen before, and it changes all the time. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask, go out in public, open the bars, close the bars. It's been a development that we have to deal with all the time. I would have involved the health department officials a little bit more and the doctors. I would have asked more of the doctors in the community to be on this board. I think these decisions should have been made by health officials rather than politicians, and I would have liked to have seen that a little bit more. But other than that, we've really pulled together, and even though we have a high amount of numbers, they've done a good job of running this pandemic.
Mandy.
This question's for both candidates, please. Pre-pandemic, more than 90 days had passed before the waters receded from the streets inside the Still Right Point neighborhood in Key Largo in late November 2019. It all stemmed from a king tide that had rolled in months earlier. Residents have called for action at the county level to address this issue before another king tide inundates their streets. What would you do if elected to expedite a solution for these residents inside the community, and how do you balance the protection of such a community without using tax dollars to increase private property values?
Robbie, you start.
Well, just yesterday, I went through Still Right Point neighborhood. We're not in a high tide right now, but we had a lot of rain, and the streets are flooded. It's a low-lying area. Certainly high tides are going to make a difference, but rain makes a difference. Where you buy your house, whether you buy your house in an X zone or you buy your house in a low zone, makes a lot of difference in the price you pay for the house. So yes, the puddles were up to my ankles yesterday when I walked through that neighborhood. We have to work with this. There is money in Washington to deal with this every year. Mike's been with me. We go to Washington. We get money for environmental infrastructure from Washington. We could deal with this problem by dealing with getting money from the state, getting money from the federal government, getting money from the county, but also the citizens that live, the homeowners in that neighborhood have to have skin in the game. It's not an easy process. I'm on the wastewater board up in Key Largo, and when we raise those roads, we also have to watch all the vacuum lines, we have to raise all the manholes, we have to move all the electrical stuff. So it's a very expensive proposal,
Thanks,
but we
Robbie.
got to get working on it now.
Mike, same question.
Thank you. So I've been working with the Still Right Point people as well. George Smythe has got me involved. And I really believe that the county is working hard to find an answer, but the answer so far has been on the backs of the taxpayers, and I think that's wrong. I think it should be a public-private partnership for any of the areas or neighborhoods that face the same problem that they do. So there needs to be some skin in the game on both sides in order for it to work. Yes, we need state money, we need federal money, but we can't wait for that. We have to move forward. The sea level rise is real. We see it every day. So I really believe that the county, if they could bond the money and give these people a good break, just like sewering the Keys, it's no different. So if your area is inundated with water, I believe that the county steps forward with some skin in the game, but they also put a bond out there where the taxpayers in those areas won't be overburdened for a short period of time, but do it over 20 years. And so it increases the tax base for the county and also protects their property.
Thanks, Mike.
Can I ask a follow-up or no?
Is it a quick follow-up?
No, don't worry about it.
Okay, we'll get to it. Stephanie?
Representing a nonprofit that is a human services nonprofit, the Human Services Advisory Board, or HSAB, is one of the most important parts of our year for many social services in our community. It's also one of the most grueling days of the year for us. What do each of you think of that process? And are there things you want to see changed, or do you want to keep it the same?
Well, as you know, I'm involved with that, with being on the board of United Way. I have been for a few years, and also Healthy Starts, and also with the Mark House. I believe that you keep working within that system, but we need to refine that some more. I think it's going to be really hard to get money anywhere in the next year or two. So we have to find out ways to create some base of stakeholders in our community to step forward, some benefactors to really help out, because I don't see it, as you saw from the state, they cut the funding for most nonprofits, and we need to make up that difference, and I think we can, because the money's going to the backbone of our community.
Robbie, same question.
You know, if we work together, instead of having many different groups, try to solve the same problem, when we work with United Way, we work with one or two groups, and we funnel our money in there, I think we will find that businesses will step forward and help. But when you have 20 different people from 20 different organizations always asking you for different money for different things, it's hard for a business to decide who we're going to give to, or the county who we're going to give to. So by working with one or two organizations and getting it all under one umbrella, I think we'll find the money and we'll be able to do it. I think organizations like that need to do the job, not the county politicians. I think your organization needs to do the job, and it can be done.
Thank you, Rob. Bill is up next. I do notice we do have one audience member here that's not a candidate. We have Sylvia Murphy, the current county commissioner. These guys are running for the seat. So if there was an audience here, they'd be roaring. But, hello, Sylvia. Thank you for coming all the way down.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Bill.
Question for Mike Forster. Mike, the DOT recently completed the time delay study of the overseas highway, showing that we have dropped below that 45-mile-an-hour mark, at which a lot of things kick in, none of them good. The choke point has been Isla Morada. What have you done the past 8 years to help correct that situation? What could you do as a county commissioner?
So that's a great question, and we talk about it on your show a lot. So Isla Morada is the choke point because we're 2 lanes, we're not 4 lanes like other areas. And we also have the last working bridge of all Monroe County, which is a detriment to our area. So one thing that we did in our area is that we started the freebie program. So it not only took cars off the road, but also reduced the carbon footprint. And I believe that model can be used in other areas, including Key Largo, including Marathon, to reduce the amount of traffic. And I'm also a believer of the 300 units as far as affordable housing. That will reduce some of the traffic coming from the mainland, so we can have stakeholders that could live north instead of going back and forth to Florida City and Homestead, and they'd be working partners and stakeholders in our community and get those cars off the road. But I'm also for a district parking area and bus and ride, and we need to start that as well.
Follow up on that. Do you think 4-laning of Alamorada is possible?
No, sir, never happened. If you did 4-laning in Alamorada, the businesses would close because the planning department would tell you that you don't have enough parking for your business. Because right now they back up into the highway the way it is.
Okay.
Little technical thing. Greg Sullivan's watching. Hey, Greg. He said that some country music, hopefully it's good country music, is popping in. Any idea?
Is he
We don't-
watching on the county channel?
Yeah, we don't know.
Maybe it's their music.
I'm not sure. Greg, tell me what you're watching on, and we'll keep working on it, but we're going to move along. It looks like Bill says, live radio. So, Jennifer.
All right, question for both candidates. Considering the pandemic, do you believe that the TDC should make any changes to the advertising plan for the upcoming months and year? And then how should we market moving forward the Florida Keys as a tourist destination while also protecting the health and safety of our residents? Either one.
Oh, which one? Then Robbie.
Okay. Well, the TDC does a great job of marketing. After I went to veterinary school, I went into advertising, and I love advertising, and I love seeing the great job that they do in marketing. But we are a tourist destination, and with COVID especially now, people do not want to fly. They're driving down here in droves. We're getting lots of people down here, which is putting a little more strain on our infrastructure. And the only thing I would like to see in TDC is to make it a little bit easier for us to get some of that brick and mortar money out into the community. I've looked at the application, and it's very difficult to get that brick and mortar money out into the community. It's become easier in the last year or two. But if we could get more of that money to helping the roads and the infrastructure that the tourism industry brings down here, maybe get some money into the police department, so certain things like that, I think that's where the TDC can help Monroe County. Their advertising is second to none.
Do you want that to go to the other?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I also think that TDC does a great job, but that dinosaur has left the room. I own multiple businesses, and I count on tourism because I can't just count on locals to support my business. But I really do believe that we do need more bricks and mortar out of the TDC, and during pandemics like this, they're doing the right thing now. They've pulled their advertising, but I do believe that our infrastructure, our civil servants, just to find affordable housing for them, just be able to retain them. I think more money can go towards civil servants to help with the additional tourism that we've built. I said 3 years ago that we were overbuilt. So I'm happy with the business that I have now. I don't need more, but I appreciate what the TDC does. And I am afraid if they stop advertising, then what happens 3 years from now, I'm going to be sitting there saying, well, I'm really sorry about what I said before. So there still needs to be advertising, but it needs to change the messaging a little bit to where we don't need as many.
Thanks, Mike. Mandy.
For Mike Forrester, recently the county commission has enacted measures in the upper keys that have had far-reaching impacts in the middle keys and farther south, such as closing the public boat ramps for mini season. What specific intergovernmental measures will you pursue to avoid these unintended consequences and ensure that the impacts of any measures are spread fairly throughout the county?
Right. Well, I think it's a fair question, and that was addressed on our mayor's manager's call when we talked about that open and honestly of what Alamorada was going to do. And that was over 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and I said to the other municipalities, does this affect you? Can we agree that the upper, lower, middle keys are different and separate in the way we handle things with day trippers or quality tourism like you have here in Key West? So I was given the green light I even said to Marathon, I said, Marathon, am I impacting you by moving forward with this to where we shut down our boat ramps? And they said, no, sir, it's minimal. It's a minimal amount. And I said to Heather, same thing. I said, I would recommend that you might do this north because the impact north of us is going to be great. So nothing was acted on at that time. And then Terry, we mentioned it to Key West, and Key West said they understood where we were coming from. So So yes, it was in place. Don't want to impact anybody else because of the situations that we're in, but we also need to protect our residents.
Thanks, Mike. Stephanie?
I'll give this one to Robbie then. It seemed like during COVID that the county has often not been in alignment with some of the other cities and what policies they've put in place, such as face masks, restaurants, bars. Why do you think, what would you do to bring us more in alignment as a whole community?
Well, now we've had COVID. So this was the first time we had something like this, so it was impossible for us to realize how we were going to handle it. But yes, the situation in Key West is different than the situation in Key Largo. In Key West, you have large groups of people wandering around the streets. In Key Largo, we don't have that. So every municipality and every part of the Keys is a little bit different, and they had to handle it a little bit different. But communication between the cities and having a stable policy. One of the things I mentioned the other day on the COVID call, was we need to have a standard sign that we have throughout Monroe County, so that every business has the same sign, so that we're not giving confusing messages to the tourists that come down here. Some tourists were coming down and going, well, we don't have to wear a mask in Key West, why would we have to wear a mask here? But having a standard policy where everything looks the same, and I think the county has done that. They've put signs out, our businesses all have the same signs. So we've worked together. Hopefully there'll be not another COVID, but I think we really got it down now.
Thank you, Rob. Bill?
Question for Mike. The county has an incident command team that's handling the pandemic, and they do during hurricanes. It's the mayor, the county administrator, fire chief, sheriff, who am I missing?
Emergency management.
Emergency management director. Do you agree with that setup? Does it work for you? Did it work for Islamorada?
No, sir, it did not. Again, that's a dinosaur as well, to where I think that was done before incorporation was done. And I think that each incorporated area should have a seat at the table. Not a deciding vote, but at least a seat at the table so they know what's going on before they get to see the public service announcement 15 minutes after the phone call. So I really believe that our partners, our stakeholders from the north to south need to be at the table. Other than that, I think it's the right makeup of people, except for we're missing some partners.
Okay. Jennifer?
This question is for Robbie, or both of them, doesn't matter. Under which conditions, or if any, would you support additional restrictions of US 1 if the COVID outbreak continues to intensify? And what metrics would you like to see used to determine whether or not that happens?
You mean like a roadblock?
Yeah, roadblock.
Checkpoint.
Checkpoint.
Check.
I was trained. ID verification. I was trained.
This is when you have to take into consideration that your point of view is not necessarily the point of view for everybody. I was a Boy Scout leader. I'm prepared. I have food. This is hurricane season. I had everything ready if we needed to shut down. My family can be taken care of. My business is taken care of. My employees are taken care of. But that's not the case for everybody. So you have to think of how is this going to affect everybody. Me personally, if they put the checkpoint down, it brought back my dreams of the old days of the Keys, where we all knew each other and we worked together. Like after a hurricane, we were all helping each other with our chainsaws, and we're all in this together. And then when they opened the roadblock up, it was all of a sudden, oh my God, what are these people doing to our city, to our county? So the roadblock was a good thing for me, but it was not necessarily good for the people that needed to work, that needed to feed their families. So you have to take into consideration. So I think the initial roadblock was fine, but we had to take it down. We can't block ourselves off from the rest of the world.
Was that for both or just for one?
For if there's time. Up to you.
Let's move on.
Okay.
I'd rather get through a bunch of questions.
Okay.
Mine's a quick yes, no for both. As a Republican, do you support President Trump's bid for a second term?
Robbie, start, and then Mike.
Absolutely. I think he's done the things he's doing for the economy and the things he's doing for America. I believe it. He reminds me of my father, though, and I didn't really like my father's personality too much. He would never have been my friend. I don't think President Trump would be my friend, but his heart is in the best interest of America, and I support him for the second term.
Thank you for the answer.
Yes.
Okay.
This is one of those times I'm really glad we don't have a big room full of people. They'll be yelling at everybody now, to stop.
That's true.
So, Stephanie?
What are we doing to address the affordable housing issue in the county, and what should we be doing?
Is this to?
Both.
Okay. Then Mike?
Okay. So I really believe that we need as many affordable housing units that we possibly can. I'm not for getting into the housing authority, but for getting businesses or Habitat for Humanity, 501c3, to be the stakeholders and let them run with it, let them vet the people through. But if we don't get affordable housing, then we're just going to keep being a training ground, especially in the civil servants, our nurses, our teachers, our cops, and we're just going to be a training ground. They're going to leave because they can't afford to live here. So I believe some of the new models of affordable housing should really be just for them specifically, so we have the people in the necessary positions here in Monroe County so we can sustain ourselves. But we're losing those people. The Sheriff's Department's short on help. The FWC hasn't had new boots on the ground in the last 15 years. We've grown exponentially. So affordable housing is very important to me. I understand that people are saying that we're overbuilt and the roads are crazy with traffic. But in order to have people stay here and less traffic, we need to have these people live here.
Thank you, Mike. Robbie, same question.
The biggest boogeyman in this room is the vacation home rentals. We would have more affordable housings if everybody could make a fortune renting their own house out. I'm a little worried, I'm getting a little old. I recently put my house up for sale and sold it immediately. This is a hot market. I'm just trying to save some equity. So I said, well, I could go rent a place, or I could buy a little place. My wife and I want to have a little ground floor house. Nothing between $4,000 and $5,000 for rent out there. A little, what I call a shack the other day with broken windows and a broken floor on a dry lot was $400,000, and it sold the first day it went on the market. These people are going to use it as a vacation home. They're going to use it as vacation rentals. If we could crack down on these vacation rentals, we'd have more long-term rentals. So we need to give an incentive for people to do that. As far as other affordable housing, I think we're overbuilt. No, I would not want to take any more ROGOs, no more units. Let's redevelop some of the stuff. On the way up here, I passed a unit called Woods Landing in Almirada, where the county owns the land, and these condos, these 4-bedroom condos, sell for $230,000. That's affordable housing.
Thanks, Robbie. Bill?
Regarding the for Robbie, the sanctuary's restoration blueprint, how do you feel about it, and what would you do as a county commissioner with respect to it?
With the Everglades restoration blueprint?
The restoration blueprint, the sanctuary's restoration blueprint.
We have overused our resources, and certain areas do need to get a rest. You know, I believe in it, but I think we need to have more public input from our fishermen, where if it's gonna impact right in front of their houses where they can't get out. But as far as areas that need a rest, we've seen it in the dry tortugas where we have a rest. Now we have an area where the fish are spawning. We have certain areas where the seagrass has been totally destroyed. We need to close off some of those areas. So I think the giving the environment a little bit of rest is the best thing we can do. And we're getting plenty of public input as long as they listen to us. You know, if they don't listen to us, then what's the use of all this public input they've been asking for?
Can we throw that to Mike as well?
Sure, we got time.
Yeah,
Your
thank you
thoughts?
for asking that, because I've been involved in a lot of the NOAA meetings, and I think 7 or 8 of them up and down the Keys. And I can tell you that I think we found some magic in the middle with Robert Spotswood and the FWC board. Their answers back to Sarah Fangman with NOAA and the blueprint that allows inclusion, okay, but it also protects. So with more mooring balls and different artificial wrecks are another thing that we really need to address, because that takes the pressure off those areas that are already hot. So I really believe that we need to keep the inclusion. We need to close off some of those areas that are overpopulated, but we need to put some artificial reefs there or ships there. And I think that's the answer. I don't think we need any more public comment. I think it's already divided our county enough. I think it's time to move forward, and let's see if we can find that magic in the middle.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
If you've got a list of like short questions, short answers. We can get through one more round real quick and then close this out. So, Jennifer.
Mine are short. I would like to hear both responses, though. Do you support the release of genetically modified mosquitoes in the Keys?
I don't.
Can we have a why or why not, quickly?
Before I moved here, I interviewed doctors to find a doctor for my family, and Dr. Stan Zuba is my pediatrician, and he's a medical doctor, and he supports the release of these genetically modified mosquitoes. And having a medical doctor on that board that says yes makes me say yes.
That's great. Mandy.
Would you support the placement of a toll on US 1, and how would you prioritize the revenue from it?
Robbie first, then Mike.
Well, first of all, we can't if we put a toll, the state gets the money. We have to figure a way around that.
I should have said in the Florida Keys, not on US 1.
I would
In the Florida
definitely, I
Keys.
definitely support a toll. I've been supporting the toll for day one. And my program for it is see if we could just take the road away from the state, promise them a certain amount of money, and let us handle it. We need to handle the highway.
So I've been intricately involved in this for a long period of time, from Carlos Cabela to now to Debbie Mercicle-Powell. So we finally got the release from it being federal, and we don't have to worry about that part anymore. So now it's on the state level. My deal to the state would be, look, FDOT, you've never had a revenue source to begin with on the stretch. Why not be a partner with us? Why don't you get 51%? Why don't we get 49%? And why don't we divide that up amongst the municipalities equally? And then why don't we have it to where it goes to a certain either impact fee of whatever we want it to go to, civil servants or sea level rise, or it has to be mandated to go to a certain fund, all of us together. That money has to go into just the right thing. It can't just be open-ended where each municipality gets to spend the money whatever they want to spend it with. But it has to be something that we all agree upon. And I think this will work. I really do. And I'm going to fight for that.
Thank you.
Good answers. Before you do, everybody, we're still working on the audio and video chopping. We're actively working on it, so I got that.
Keep
What
texting Todd
Yeah.
about the video.
Todd
and
wants to
audio.
hear
The
from
next
more of
message I'd
you.
like to hear is that seems to have cleared up, looking good. So, or that Stephanie is just so funny. So, I'm not expecting that one. So go ahead, Stephanie, next.
Todd, you don't want to open that can of worms. All right. The county is expected to receive approximately $13 million total from the CARES Act, far less than some of our other communities. Where should that money be prioritized to help our community get through COVID?
Mike.
So, I mean, it should go to the most affected, and the most affected are restaurateurs, our retailers, the people that have lost their jobs. That's where it should go to. Or county employees that lost their jobs, it should go to them. The ones that are most affected, I don't think it's really a science of who should get that money. It should go to the charitable organizations that are helping the children and the adults that are suffering. I think the next phase of COVID is really mental illness, and we need to address that. So that's where the money should go.
Wrap up.
Okay, Robbie, go ahead.
I don't think it should go to the businesses. I think it should go to all the social services. They're the ones whose budgets have been cut. They're the ones that need the money. They're the ones out in the community helping the people that have been hurt by this the most. So I don't think any money should go to any more businesses, hotels, restaurants, pet stores. It should go to social services to help the citizens.
Damn those pet stores. Robbie owns a pet store. Bill, last question.
Last question. Robbie, the incorporation of Key Largo, that vote, how did you vote in that?
I would be definitely against the incorporation of Key Largo. I'd like to see us, if we could have a strong county commissioners representing Key Largo, such as I would be, and working with everybody else, I'd like to see disincorporation of everybody. Let's all join our forces together. We let the county run properly and run it. So I would be against the incorporation of Key Largo. I've seen what happened just to the islands north of us.
Okay. Maybe a quick question,
Sure.
Mark. How would you have voted if you had lived in Key Largo?
So at this moment, it's a no for incorporation of Key Largo. And I'm on the same lines of let's give it an opportunity to see if we can get some more traction in the upper Keys, and to bring more to like Rouse Marina that's still sitting there. We need to get the fair share, the fair shake of all the money that's being spent in the county, and we need to do that evenly. And I've said to people who want to incorporate, said, look, give me an opportunity to be your person, and if I can't do it, then let's incorporate.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's wrap it up, guys. 1 minute closing. Let's go ahead, Mike. You can start.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always great to come to Key West. Sorry it's under a situation like this, but I have a passion to serve. Again, don't ask me why. I've said that many times before, but I do. I love community involvement. I love partnerships. I like to work with everybody. I like, to find some magic in the middle, which I say all the time. So please vote for me on August 18th. I look forward to working with everybody from the state, the federal, the Monroe County level. And again, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Robbie.
Well, Robbie Majaska from Key Largo. And yes, I certainly miss the old meetings with all the people here and the salute and coming here and talking to everybody and working together as Monroe County. But I've lived in Key Largo for 22 years. I raised my family there. I have my business there. All my employees are all locals from Key Largo. My kids went to school. All their friends come into in to see me all the time. I am from Key Largo. I live in the district. I've lived in Key Largo and worked in Key Largo. The people of Key Largo, I've been an elected official for the Key Largo Wastewater Treatment District, and I've lowered the debt of Key Largo from $80 million down to a little less than $10 million. And I'd like to do the work with the same thing in the county. If we can lower our debt and get more money into the citizens, that's what I'm working for. I ran against Sylvia Murphy 4 years ago. Now she's here with me. She was my first campaign contributor, and I think I agreed with many of the ways she voted, but we need more money coming to Key Largo and more. We need a louder voice in Key Largo, and that's what I want to be.
Thank you, Robbie. I didn't want to cut you off because Sylvia I don't want her wrath. So. All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Oh, okay. I was told to stretch the time, and it's actually kind of easy. Is the video still going? Is that?
Yeah, but I'm going to reset it and lower it. We're not getting enough output right now. So
Oh, okay.
Lower the bit rate.
Then we're going to take a couple-minute break, everyone. So go refill your refreshments and such. And boy, I wish we were drinking during this. So,
I thought there'd be wine.
we're going to come back, check in at 6:35. It's 6:32 now. We're going to reset the video. Hopefully that will clear things up. Well, I feel like Chevy Chase on Saturday Night Live. Okay, no, Stephanie's sort of hobbies, part-time profession, along with Gwen Pelosi, they're comedians.
Gwen just texted me.
They really are comedians, and they're really funny. Well, I'll let her give a little plug for her thing later, but. Okay, for our next race, and there's a lot of irony going on, right now, and that one of them, and the easy one, and I want to thank Two Oceans Digital, which is doing our video, and they've done it forever, and it's not their fault. They're doing a great job. It's part of the irony in that the person videoing tonight, that's why this one's got to be good, is the Democratic candidate for this seat, Clinton Barris. Thank you, Clinton. He promises to do a really good job. So one of these three people is going to be running against our cameraman. And he has been our cameraman for 15 years. So that's another thing. The other really ironic thing, and I have a hunch that it's going to come up, that among all the different people that have been texting me tonight, one of them is the infamous group sending out nasty texts. And if you don't know about it, you'll learn about it through one of our questions here. But I just thought it's kind of ironic that negative campaigning is happening while we're in the forum with the three of them here. So with that, this is going to be the Republican primary for State Representative District 120. It's a seat currently held by Holly Rashine, who I think everybody knows and loves. She is termed out. So this is an open seat, which always brings a lot of interest. I'll let the candidates introduce themselves, and we'll get right to the questions. I'll start at the far end. Alexandra?
Thank you, Todd. I'm Alexandria Suarez. I'm a pro-Trump Republican, and I'm running to be our next state representative in District 120.
Jim Mooney, Alamorada, candidate, House District 120.
I'm Rhonda Redmond Lopez. I'm a Ronald Reagan lady, and I helped get President Trump elected.
Thank you, Lexi. Okay, doing our rotation. Mandy, you're going to be first up.
All right. The state of Connecticut has passed legislation banning the possession of automatic weapons and guns that can be converted to automatic weapons. It has also passed laws restricting magazine amounts to no more than 10 bullets and has eliminated the loophole allowing the sale of guns without a background check at gun shows. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit held that these laws were not unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court has declined to review the decision of the Court of Appeals. Despite the deadly shooting in Parkland, Florida, Florida has not done what Connecticut has done. If elected, will you support similar state legislation regarding gun safety, yes or no? And if not, please be specific as to why not.
Is this for everybody?
Yes, please.
Okay, then let's start with Rhonda and go that way.
First of all, I'm a lifetime NRA member. I feel like that the laws on the books, as far as guns, are not being enforced. And if we would enforce those, we'd have a lot less problems with our the gun violence that's going on. I also feel like that one big reason that we're having so much gun violence is the big elephant in the room, which is mental health. And I think we need to address more mental health issues. And I feel like that our amendment with our guns is to be treasured and sacred. And I am definitely for not infringing on the ownership of guns by our citizens.
So that's a no about automatic weapons?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Jim.
Yeah, the Second Amendment's very important, obviously. In today's world, everything is fast-forwarded in warp speed. Yeah, the Second Amendment has to be upheld, and I've been using guns since I was 8 years old. I have guns, but I was taught how to use guns, and a lot of it is just the ability for people not to learn how to use guns. That segments into another section of society which the mental health issues that do come up. So yeah, I'm going to support the Second Amendment fully.
Alexandra.
Thank you. It's a no for me. The Second Amendment it's a God-given right, and it's something that's very clear in our Constitution, shall not be infringed. Black and white, it's there. I believe that what we need to do is we need to get back our moral compass as a society. We need to focus on education. We need to teach more respect in our society. And I am very supportive of our Second Amendment right to bear arms. And I believe that we should be seeking the root of the problem, whether it's mental illness or it's accountability, personal accountability for that person that did what they did and should not have. And we need to focus on those things. There's plenty of laws in place, plenty of gun control that has been passed, and here we are. It hasn't gotten better, so clearly we need to focus on whatever the issues truly are, rather than put a Band-Aid on a jugular bleed. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Alexander. I'll remind the candidates, look at Clinton. You're going to be one of them's going to be looking at him a lot anyway. Moving on, Stephanie.
For all of the candidates, the Alice report tells us that for a family of 4, 2 working adults and 2 children in Monroe County, earning $84,000 a year does not even meet your basic needs. For a family to be stable in Monroe County, they need to earn $115,800. All of you say jobs are important, but how do we create jobs that actually pay that living wage for Monroe County families?
Let's start with Jim, then we'll go to Alexandra. With 3 people, it's a little more difficult, so we'll try to do the same thing we do with them. Correct me if I miss one.
Okay.
Jim, go ahead.
Okay, well, as a small business owner previously and a realtor now, businesses have a lot of pressure on them from all angles. The reality of it is that you'd love to pay people more money, but then your taxes don't go down, your insurance rates go down, they don't go down. So what we end up with is this dynamic that just doesn't work. And you're right, $84,000, you've got to make 6 figures to live not even comfortably in Monroe County. You've got to make 6 figures. How do you do that? Well, we live and die on tourism, first of all, and we're going to have to figure out another way to bring in jobs that aren't solely based on tourism. Now, I can't give you that answer right now, but certainly it's something that has to be looked into. But clearly, paying people more money, and a lot of employers do pay people well, but it doesn't come back to the employer. So ultimately, that nickel is just cut in 100 different ways, and it ends up just being tough on everybody. And of course, that just boils down to we got to get more workforce housing. Got to have better rent.
That real ring is a minute.
Yeah. I got here.
Alexandra.
So that's a great question. And being someone who, the youngest of six, I'm the youngest of six, put myself through college. I have 4 grown children, now 21 to 31. I've lived, I can't just talk to it, I can say from experience because I lived through living paycheck to paycheck. And Monroe County was about 40% living paycheck to paycheck before the pandemic hit. And so I believe that we need to do a lot of deregulating. We need to lower taxes. Not raise taxes, we need to lower taxes. We need to see where the fat is. We have to get rid of pet projects that elected officials have that we're all paying for. And so I believe that the best way to help our families get food on their table and be able to survive and live in the Keys and enjoy our beautiful district is by deregulating everywhere and anywhere that we can. It's the worst cost of living in Florida, and as state representative, I intend to cut everywhere we possibly can and make sure that we improve our quality of life while we reduce our cost of living here.
Thank you. Rhonda.
As the only small business owner running in this race on the Republican side, I can tell you from experience, we need to be business friendly. We need to cut taxes, we need to cut regulations, we need to cut red tape, we need to lower insurance rates, we need to give tax credits to business owner, we need to educate and encourage trade jobs in our community dealing with trades. Don't just automatically send your kids off to a 4-year university. It would be great for them to possibly, they may have a talent in a trade. Those are very well-paying jobs, and whether you have a 4-year degree or not, who doesn't want to know how to fix their own toilet? Who doesn't want to know how to do their own wiring in their home? Who doesn't want to know how to fix their car? Because you know what? That can save you a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Technical thing, if anybody is on the Studios of Key West Wi-Fi, please stop. Use your cellular. I don't know anybody in here probably is.
I am. Sorry.
You are. So this is Mandy's fault, everyone.
Sorry.
So anybody on Studios Wi-Fi, I think we're just having some
I'm not connected.
pipeline stuff. We'll give it a shot. We're working on it, guys. I think in another hour, we'll have this down.
Disconnected.
Okay, so we are on to Bill.
I'm just getting off.
Bill's back. First time our panelists were the whole problem. Actually, it's not the first time.
Question for Alexandria. I got your mailer here, and it says you will fight against leftist and socialist policies. Give me an example of some of those policies that might be at work, say, in Key West.
Absolutely. Well, I think some of those policies have to do with infringing on our personal liberties. Florida and Texas are probably the last 2 states where we have the most personal rights and property rights. And so socialism, I believe, is at our door. When you have a government that is dictating, quite frankly, wearing a mask 24/7 the moment you're outside your home, I think we need to go back and we need to reassess whether or not that's working, first of all. And secondly, we need to find the least invasive means of resolving our issues and taking care of whether it's public safety or taking care of our businesses that does not infringe on those fundamental liberties that have made our country so great. And so that could be one example. The pandemic, it's not an easy task to be an elected official during the pandemic, but I think we have a duty when we're elected officials to find the least invasive means to get a goal accomplished.
Let me follow. Do you think masks infringe on, personal rights?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Do you think masks infringe on personal rights?
No, personally, masks, I choose to wear the mask. But I have family and friends that are asthmatic and cannot wear the mask and have a lot of issues with it. So to risk being criminalized because you cannot wear a mask even though you can stay 6 feet apart from people, I think that's where we're missing something. We need to just use common sense when it comes to things. I choose to wear a mask because I don't want to risk my family and friends getting sick, but that's not to say that I like somebody to force me to wear the mask. That's the part where people feel that they're being oppressed, And it shouldn't be a political issue, but it's become a political issue because we're going to an extreme where we should find the common middle ground.
Jennifer.
This question is for all the candidates. Do you believe that our school children should be returning to the classroom this fall? And if so, what types of precautions do you believe should be taken to protect both the children and the teachers and administrators?
Okay, we'll start with Alexandria, then Rhonda, then Jim.
I believe that our students need to get back to learning. They need to get back to school. It's not an easy feat for our school board to make the decision. Hindsight's 20/20, and it's almost like we're going through a trial and error. But our students need to get back to learning, and our parents need to get back to working. There's too many people because of the pandemic that are worried about whether or not their business is going to survive, whether or not they'll be able to maintain their job because they have children at home. And quite frankly, we're going to have to find a way to work around the situation that has been placed on us. We cannot continue to just stay in our homes if we're not a high risk. We've got to find a way to get the economy going. We've got to find a way to keep our businesses open and be able to move on with our lives.
Rhonda.
Well, personally, I feel like that this dialogue should be left between the parents of these school children and the parents. I think that this dialogue should be left between the parents of these school children and the school district. I think my philosophy has always been that the government closest to the people knows the people best. Parents know their children's best. I feel like that the parents and the school district can work together and make this decision. They both, I think, will work in the best at all possible. They will work best for what is for that child, and no one knows best for that what's best for a child than their parent. So I do think that it is a lot to ask for a small child to sit in a classroom with a mask on for 8 hours. I just honestly believe that that is an issue. But at the same time, maybe some of the older children, it's a different situation. But I do, like I said, I want to emphasize that that dialogue should be between the parents and the school district.
Thank you, Rhonda. Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, personally, I think the kids should go back to school. The reasoning is that there are a number of kids and throughout the Keys and throughout the district that may not have the means or the home support to actually make sure they're learning. Now, that said, I think every parent will make their own decision. I know that my granddaughters are starting school on August 19th or August 18th in Palm Beach. They're going to go to school. That's a decision, my daughter makes, and I think she should as a parent. Now, honestly, I'm glad I don't have a child in school today because I think that'd be a very difficult decision to make. But statistic-wise, yeah, every time a kid gets sick, it's a bad thing. But statistically speaking, we know that children do better overall with the virus than elderly do. And then, as far as how that's done, there's talk. I have several friends in the Upper Keys that are school teachers, and the scuttlebutt is, and the talk is that teachers will move room to room, and the kids will stay in place.
You guys did fantastic on time then. Okay, Mandy, another round here.
All righty. This can be for all three, please. But after the Florida constitutional amendment allowing convicted felons other than murderers and rapists to vote, the Republican-controlled state legislature enacted a statute, quote, clarifying the amendment. That statute provided that felons can vote upon completion of all terms of their sentence, including parole or probation, to also encompass the payment of fines, restitution, costs, and fees. The right to vote is just that, a right and not a privilege. If you are a convicted felon, your right to free speech, due process of law, trial by jury, etc. are not taken away. Why does conviction have a bearing on voting?
How do you want to do that?
Rhonda, please, first.
Well, first of all, if that's a law that has been passed, as you stated, then that's the law, and we follow the law. And what was the last part of the question?
What does conviction of a crime have a bearing on voting if it's a right, not a privilege?
Well, it depends. It depends on the severity of the crime. If it's a very severe crime, I definitely think that that's a little different than a crime that's not as severe. The level of the felony, I think, has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, the amendment said it wasn't for murderers or rapists specifically.
Okay, if it's not for murders or
exempted
rapists,
that,
I believe that if they have their time served and they want to get back and merge into society, and they pay their fines and do what they need to do or to get back into this system, if they follow the guidelines that are proposed, I have no problem with that.
Let's do Jim, switching it up.
Yeah, the reality of it is, it is a law. The law is clear, and once they pay the piper, so to speak, then the states deem that they're allowed to vote, and I think that's fine. It clearly states not violent crime or violent criminals. So you know what? If they've spent X amount of time in jail and paid their fines and done their duty or civic, their probation time and all that, then they should be allowed to vote.
including when such a minority of people are able to actually ever pay their entire restitution amount?
Well,
that's what it requires.
Well, yeah, the bottom line is the law says they got to pay it, they got to pay it. And if they can't pay it, then they got to figure out how to pay it. It's fair because before that they couldn't vote at all ever. So, if you want to vote, you'll figure it out.
Alexander.
The reality is that part of the sentencing will be jail time and another part will be even restitution or fines or costs. That is part of the bargain that is struck on the sentencing. And so I believe that once you have paid your dues to society and once you have served whatever time you were sentenced with, you should be allowed to become a productive member of society. You should be able to restore your writing votes. When restitution or fines are a part of that sentencing, then that's included in what is deemed you fulfilling your side of the bargain, your terms, to be able to reintegrate into society and be able to vote. It's part of the deal that they struck.
Thank you. Stephanie.
All right, two-part question. One, hang with me. First one's a yes or no. Do you support the cruise ship referendums that are currently up for vote in Key West? And if they passed and you were elected as, a representative, would you vote for a preemptive bill to block the referendums from going into effect, as has happened with other issues by the state of Florida blocking Key West referendums and amendments?
I take it back. It's a good question.
See, thank you, Todd.
Jim, why don't we start with you and then Alexander, then
Okay, yeah, you know what? It's a referendum. I believe in home rule. The citizens of Key West have deemed it something that is impacting their lives on a daily basis. I don't live here. I don't know that any of us up here live here. I've been to Key West many times. I've been on a handful of cruises. But you know what? That's a home rule decision, and I believe in home rule, and I can't waver from that, because home rule is super important for all small communities and larger communities to separate themselves from everybody else. We all have different rules throughout the county. We all understand because we're different, and that's it. We have issues in the Upper Keys that Key West doesn't have here. It's not cruise ship, it's cars, it's day trippers. They all compound problems on our daily lives. And that's a decision that the people of Key West need to make for themselves. And if they vote for that referendum and it passes, I know it'll be a blow for the economy to some degree. I saw the Chamber of Commerce presentation. It looks pretty devastating.
You can finish your thought, but.
Well, no, it seems like that's going to be a pretty big hit for the city, and whoever becomes mayor is going to have their hands full with the budget. But they'll figure it out, because that's what good leaders do.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, Alexandria.
I've seen that it's a heated topic and it's a divided issue, because you have a lot of businesses that rely on this tourism industry. From the Key West Chamber's account, there was, I believe, over 800 businesses that are going to suffer by just passing a referendum to push away the tourism that comes in from the cruise ships. As I said before, I think everything needs to strike a balance. You need to take it to referendum, but home rule is good for certain instances, but you also have to take into account when it's something so divided that any unintended consequences, I don't think it's that straightforward of, let's just leave the cruise ships to not come back to Key West. There's a lot of impact that it's going to make, and Key West has always been able to reinvent itself. But certainly there are businesses that rely on the tourism of the cruise ships? Why not find solutions? There's a Virgin cruise ship that has a clean system where the water itself, by the time it gets...
Can I just ask for clarity? So
Yeah.
would you then vote for a preemptive bill to block us from controlling our cruise ships?
No, I didn't say that I would vote for a preemptive bill. I said that it's a complicated issue and we need to take a look
So
at
you
what...
would, if it passes, you'd support it?
I can't answer it yet. I'd have to take a little closer look at it.
Rhonda.
Okay, look, our businesses, our people, we're hurting. Small business owners are hurting. They're scared. They're frightened. Matter of fact, they're pretty hungry. And we need a constant revenue stream to get past this pandemic. I believe in home rule. I believe that the philosophy that the government closest to the people knows best. And I also believe that cities and counties should govern themselves, should be able to govern themselves. The law is the law. If it passes by a vote by the people, then I would most definitely support it, because that's a democracy. But keep in mind, we need revenue, and we need a constant revenue flow going, and if this is going to cut more revenue, I just don't know how much more we can take.
Bill.
Question for Jim. The state legislature, you mentioned your support for home rule. The state legislature has been pushing preemption, a lot of preemption of local control.
Can't hear you.
And as a result, we've
up,
seen...
Bill.
Can't hear you.
They can't hear you.
Louder.
Louder, okay.
Gotta tell the radio guy to speak louder.
Let's say you're elected to the legislature and say the House Speaker comes to you and says, you'll vote for this preemption bill, or else. And it's a preemption bill that's bad for the Florida Keys. What would you say to him
Well,
or her?
again, you know, being an elected official at this point in time in my life, Alamorada has fought rigorously, as has the county and the municipalities, to support home rule. Home rule is the lifeblood of every community. Yes, are there issues in every town that maybe could be diluted some via preemption? Probably. But the reality of it is, a great example would be trees. Can you imagine if you just cut down any tree you want to without a permit? It would be devastating. So, and if the speaker comes to me, I'm going to have an argument for the speaker. First of all, what are you taking away from me? How are you going to get rid of me? I'm not going anywhere for 2 years. The reality of it is that I'm going to fight for home rule. And when I was vetted over a year ago in Tallahassee, I clearly made it very clear that I am a home rule guy. That may have shaken a few people, but it doesn't shake me.
Okay.
Jennifer.
This question is for Ms. Suarez. You mentioned earlier in an answer that you were a proponent of lowering taxes, that you would like to see taxes lowered on the residents of the state of Florida. I'm curious, in a year where Florida has experienced a huge loss in revenue, sales tax, other types of revenue, tourist-related revenue, how would you lower taxes and at the same time balance the budget? What specific cuts would you make on the other side that would get us to a balanced budget while also reducing taxes?
The first thing I would do is start looking at pet projects and things that are not necessary, because in today's world, we just can't afford luxuries. So the first thing I would do is take a look at what we have in our budget that we don't necessarily need, and focus on cutting from that direction. The business rent tax has been going down with the state legislature. They plan on continuing to cut the business rent tax, and so I would be supportive of that as well. We pay taxes everywhere we go. We pay taxes on property, we pay taxes on sales, we pay taxes everywhere. Now we're going to have a COVID tax, so we're starting to see that so the businesses can help recover. So we need to take a really hard look at what the budget is and where can we cut some of the fat. I'm pretty sure that there's fat there. There are things that we could do without for now. We cannot do without water projects. We cannot do without workforce housing. We cannot do without certain things. And so any pet projects need to be the first ones on the chopping block.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Ms. Suarez, one of your opponents has recently mentioned government closest to the people should have control. Who in the Florida Keys has your ear, specifically by name? Who has your ear, your cell phone number? Where do you get most of your information here in the district?
I get my information from a source, a variety of sources. So I listen to the news on the radio. I listen to a variety of sources, whether it's, and keep in mind that our district is farm to sea. We're based in Key West for this debate, but our district starts in Miami-Dade County. So I listen not only to the key sources, but I also listen to what's going on in Miami-Dade County. As far as, who has my ear, over the course of a year campaigning, I've met with a variety of elected officials. I've met with commissioners. I've met even with the state representative. I've met with a number of people to get their take on what's going on, school board members. So I try my best to be informed.
Any non-officials? Specific non-officials?
Oh, non-officials, certainly. I've met with people from the Boating Association. I've met with professional divers. I've met with, commercial fishermen. I've met with those that live and work in the beautiful Florida Keys and have a lot invested in here and are concerned with what lies ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alexander. Next question probably needs to go to Rhonda, so we can.
Okay, Rhonda, how would you rate the FDOT's performance in working with locals in the past few years on renovation projects such as our North Roosevelt Boulevard, Cow Key Bridge, and then numerous issues with traffic up and down the Florida Keys?
Well, look, there's always room for improvement on that. We have a major problem with congestion in District 120. We have a major problem with overdevelopment. I think that the FDOT could do better. The timing and the amount of time it takes for them to complete a project, the red tape we have to go through, it takes forever to get a project. It takes forever to get a project approved, and I think that we waste a lot of time. And I think that as your representative, that I will work closely. I have a lot of good connections and friends that actually work in the Department of Transportation in Tallahassee, and they have told me that they will definitely work close with me on this issue. But transportation is vital because it affects our economy. We do not need for it to take an hour to drive 10 miles as a business owner. Time is money, and money is important, and revenue is important, and it's our livelihood. And transportation can do better. But we do have to forge those relationships with the FDOT, and we do have to be their friend.
Thanks, Rhonda. It's our last round, so if you can find individual questions, that would be great.
Okay.
So we're on, that was Mandy, so Stephanie.
I just went.
You just,
That was her,
Bill.
so Bill.
Sorry.
A question for Alexandria and Rhonda. The State Representative Holly Rashine and Senator Flores have both endorsed Jim Mooney for this election. What should voters think about those endorsements? Are they warranted?
The only endorsement that I need is the endorsement of the voters. Holly has done a great job. There's big shoes to fill, but there's also the situation where she's lifelong friends with one of the other candidates. So I wouldn't expect an endorsement without having such a strong ties to someone else. But I will tell you that this is not about the buddy system. This isn't about keeping an establishment in place. This is about the voters having fresh perspective, having somebody that comes in with a strong resume such as mine, whether in education, healthcare, or law, and coming in and doing what they can do for our district to keep the district moving forward, whether it's in business recovery, whether it's with environmental projects, and whether it's with the economy, or it is with our elderly, which, whether Republican or Democrat, I'm the strongest candidate in healthcare, and we need healthcare access and affordability in this district, where I'm certainly the top candidate for that. Now, endorsements, they may be nice, but the only endorsement I need are those of the voters.
Same question.
Do you want me to answer that?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's for everybody.
Right, I wanted to get
Okay,
Rhonda's
yes,
reaction.
I apologize.
Okay, let me tell you, I'm the only candidate that's on the ballot that got the signatures and didn't have to pay to be on the ballot. I got on the ballot by petition. That speaks volumes. I didn't write a check to the government to close to $2,000 like the other three people in this race did. Well, there's two people, but the guy filming wrote a check as well. So that being said, I just want you to know that I'm being endorsed by the gold standard of endorsements. That's the Everglades Trust. Now, my predecessor that I'm hoping to be your state representative, she's been very good in working with the constituents. She's had her aides working to try to help the voters get information on getting checks and benefits during the COVID virus to help them financially. But you know one thing she hasn't been strong on? She hasn't been strong on clean water, and she hasn't been strong on water. And you know what? That's why she didn't get the endorsement, but I got it. And that's why I'm going to tell you another thing. I also got the endorsement of the police officers. I got the endorsement of the firefighters. I got the education endorsement, the veterinarians endorsement. I can go on and on and on. And I got the endorsement of the people when they put me on the ballot. I didn't pay to get on that ballot.
Jennifer, last question.
Okay, this one will be for Mr. Mooney. Do you support offshore oil drilling in the state of Florida?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
All right.
That's just a disaster waiting to happen. We have fought that at the local level. We fought fracking. Absolutely not. That's not going to happen under my watch.
Okay. It's about time, so we can do closing statements. Why don't we start with Rhonda and go, I think we started, no, we did the other way. Alexandria first, and we'll end with Rhonda.
So I am a pro-Trump Republican. I'm running to be your state representative because I have the only ties across our entire district from farm to sea. Something that wasn't mentioned was all the mass development that's going on in the North End in Miami-Dade County. And that has a major impact on our ROGO. It has a major impact on evacuation with the 24-hour mandate, because this is an area of critical state concern. These are the types of things that haven't been discussed much in the Keys, but I know they're very important for the Keys, because otherwise you are having Miami-Dade make decisions that impact you, and they impact you negatively. So I have ties across the entire district. I have the strongest resume, whether in education, healthcare, or law, and I'm asking to be your state representative because I think we need to stop with career and corrupt politicians getting into office, getting elected, and doing things for a select few. We can't afford an exclusionist. We can't afford raise taxes. We can't afford any of the things that you will find if you search each of the candidates that are not me. So I'm asking for your vote on the Republican primary, August 18th. Thank you.
Jim.
Okay, lifelong resident of the Florida Keys, very familiar with the issues we face on a day-to-day basis. The endorsement from Holly Rashine and Senator Flores is nothing more than myself proving that I can do the job. Holly and I don't break bread together. Senator Flores and I don't break bread together. I have endorsements also from the Florida Realtors, the Dade County Medical Association, and a handful of other ones. So the reality of it is that I'm the only candidate that's qualified, has shown leadership over the course of 10 years. I am not a career politician. I'm a guy that works from my heart. I only care about the people in this district. I'm very familiar with what goes on in the mainland, but we're in Key West today. And Key West today is the most important spot. I have no doubt in my mind that I can lead this district for the next 2 years and hopefully for the next 8 years. I have no doubt at all. I am the best candidate. I'm the qualified candidate. I've proven leadership, and I will be here for the citizens of this district and this county. My record, again, indicates that is what I do. Listen.
Thank you, Jim. Rhonda, last one.
Yes, today, before I came in today, I got the endorsement of the mayor of Homestead, Florida. That's a big endorsement, and I appreciate that, and I'm thankful for it. And you can read about my endorsement on my website at voteronda.com. I've got a lot of endorsements, but I'll tell you who I don't have an endorsement from. I don't have an endorsement from the commercial builders, because I'm all about clean water, and I'm all about not overdeveloping, and I'm all about not having so much congestion. And I am the small business owner here. I'm not a trial attorney. I don't have a history of being a trial attorney. I'm not a career politician. I haven't served for many years. But you know what I am? I'm a business owner, and I'm out there with the people, and I got these endorsements for a reason, because I'm the common sense candidate. And to the voters of District 120, let's continue to talk about what's important to all of us. Lower taxes, less regulation, and safeguarding our unique natural resources and agricultural region. Let's continue to talk about the intersection of education, the economy, and the environment. And I know and trust that you guys will vote for the best person most qualified. And I come from a family of warriors, and like always, I promise to fight for you in Tallahassee. You will not have a stronger voice than Rhonda Redmond Lopez.
Thank you, Rhonda, and thank you all. Clinton, how are you? Do you need a reset or? I think we're doing good. Mayoral candidates, please come on up. Keller, we're back up.
For trouble.
We're on. So, I guess as they say in boxing, this is our main event. And if you can hear us, and I again apologize for the sound issues. It looks like it was, I'm going to blame the internet. But we want to thank Kelly Friend for maybe in Paradise. She's been with us since the very beginning. And she's the only reason you can hear us. So without further ado, we'll get to the mayor of Key West. And if one of these people can take 50% plus one vote, they will not have to go to a runoff. Otherwise, we go to a runoff. Let's start with the incumbent. Ma'am, will you introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm Mayor Terry Johnston, and I'm running for re-election as mayor of Key West.
Mark Rossi, and I'm running for the mayor of the city of Key West. 11 and a half year city commissioner and vice mayor for 11 and a half years.
Hey, I'm Rick Haskins, and I'm also running, strangely enough, for the mayor of Key West.
Okay, we start with Stephanie.
Okay. What do you think is a reasonable rent for an average working person in Key West, and what is your plan to increase the number of units at that rent level?
Who's this for? How are you
All of them. I think this is an answer everyone wants to hear from you on.
So let's just start with Terry and
All
move
right.
on down, and then we'll try to keep some semblance of
Okay. Well, I think that a reasonable rent for a rental unit in Key West is about $1,000. And how we're going to do that is we've got 103 one-bedroom, one-bathroom units right now going up on College Road. It's called the Garden View Apartments. And we're working through some soil contamination issues right now, but we will be putting those into the ground very shortly. And I think that they're really going to be something that's going to be very attractive and going to be able to house a lot of our key personnel in Key West.
You want to read that back, please?
What do you think is a reasonable rent for the average working person in Key West, and what is your plan to increase the number of units at that rent level?
Well, I can tell you that I own affordable or workforce housing. I rent a workforce housing out, a one-bedroom studio apartment I rent out for about $900 a month. The two-bedroom units that I own go anywhere from $1,600 to $2,200 a month. I haven't raised any rents in over 8 years. I own dormitory style units also that are never empty. Some of the people have lived in those dormitory style units for over 10 to 15 years, believe it or not. When it gets down to building of affordable housing and workforce housing, I believe that I could work a deal with the United States Navy, maybe do something out at Sigsbee Park, maybe do something over at the school board property. You know, it's all a matter of how hard you want to do it and make it affordable workforce housing for everyone. And I believe in it. I build it, I own it. So that's where I stand.
Thanks, Mark. Rick.
So, if you're asking me personally, I think that the ideal number is probably 800 to 1,000. But I think that I would just poll the community and ask the people who actually have to pay those rents, what do you think is reasonable? And then we need to get there, right? It's our responsibility as the biggest landlord in Key West, the government, we need to figure it out for them. But we need to ask first. I don't think it's for one of the three of us up here to say what the responsible rent is or what the reasonable rent is for the people who are actually doing it. I think that's part of the problem right now is we're not asking and we're not hearing the community. So I think we ask them and then we can act from there. I think the immediate response is to use the units that we already have built. And I think we don't take any more money away from affordable housing in any way, shape, or form. I know the budget's tight, but I don't think that taking money from affordable housing is the way to fix it.
Thank you, Rick. Bill.
Question for Mayor Johnston. Your opponent, Mr. Rossi, has criticized the mall on Duval, one of your pet projects. He called it a disaster. How would you defend it?
Well, first of all, the pedestrian Duval Street has been a request by the citizens of Key West for over 15 years. This year we were able to conduct a one-year pilot program on Duval Street by closing it certain weekends, by trying different events down there. And in fact, it was so successful that we now have unanimous support on the City Commission to move forward with an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications for an entire Duval Street revitalization program. And Bill, I don't fault Mark because it may not fit into his personal business plan. I get that. We've got people that are for it and people that are against it, but this has been a long-standing request. And Jimmy Weakling can tell you how long-standing it's been because he's brought it up to the commission probably 4 or 5 times. But these are the types of things that you have to listen to and react in a community. The first weekend that we had Mall on Duval, who filled the streets was multi-generational conks that said, I'd love to have the street back again. It's just wonderful to have a meal out here, enjoy your friends, have nice, quiet times, and be able to enjoy the street and the community.
Thank you, Terry.
Mark was mentioned there.
With all due respect to the mayor, it was a disaster. Okay, it was supposed to help out the local businesses down there, and I can assure you that it did not. As a matter of fact, if you go down Duval Street, you'll see my name on pretty much all the buildings on Duval Street. I don't like people trying to tell us what to do with Duval Street. And yes, there is a unanimous decision for revitalization of Duval Street. But what is that revitalization? It's certainly not making it a walking mall. Maybe it's for fluffing it up, cleaning it up. I think if Duval Street's cleaned up, it'll look good. And you don't want to sit down in the street right now when it's 100 degrees out. You're going to go down there and have dinner? I don't think so. So it didn't work. It worked a couple times when it was cool and it's 70 degrees out, yeah, and it was brand new. But it isn't that way now. I even can tell you that it was supposed to help the art galleries, the other people down there. The art galleries are supporting me. So what does that tell you? It didn't work. I do support cleaning Duval Street up and making it a world-class street. It already is. But let's just clean it up. Thank you.
Rick, you might as well.
Thank you. So I think that the mall on Duval, I'm not really sure which multi-generational conks were polled. I don't think that it has as much support as the city may think, but I do encourage everyone to come out and speak on things like this, like they have on the other issues that are addressing us right now. But I think that, I don't think we're hearing, this is a great example of where the city thinks that something is working really well and the people who are affected really well do not. So I think that we probably just need to listen a little bit more.
I agree.
Okay. Thanks. Now, Jennifer.
All right. I'd like to ask this of all the candidates because I think this is an important question. How do you each intend to vote on the upcoming cruise ship referenda? And can you please explain your answer, either for or against?
Let's go with Rick, then Terry, then Mark.
I'm not sure that anybody knows how clear I am on this, so I'll be very clear again. I will support the one referendum that says that we will encourage cruise ships with a good environmental record. I will not support the other two because I don't want to tie cleaner, safer ships to a number. I think 1,300 or 1,500, what if that magic number is 1,600? Then we're eliminating that. The one that crashed into the pier was a smaller ship. Smaller ships are not necessarily the safer, cleaner ships. So I do not support the two that are tied to numbers. I do support the one that are tied to environmental record.
Terry.
Okay. I'm going to support every single referendum that passes by the citizens' vote, and that's our obligation as a city commission. This is a binding referendum, and we are required to support every single one of them. But even if I wasn't required, I would certainly vote for the environmentally friendly ships. I mean, that's a no-brainer. We need to clean up our waters. We need to stop polluting with the big ships. Regarding the smaller disembarkation numbers and the smaller ships themselves, I think it's a terrific idea. I think that there are a good number of ships that are out there right now. And in fact, I've been in conversations with the Royal Caribbean. In fact, I have another meeting on Thursday with them. And here's the fascinating thing that they told us is that the city of Key West has never asked for smaller ships that disembark less people onto our shores. And I think the public is ready for it. It's ready for less people on Duval Street, maybe having a more enjoyable time, maybe staying longer, being able to dine, being able to shop, being able to go on eco tours, and not being really constrained by a 6-hour stay where you're hopping off, seeing Lower Duval, and then you hop back on.
Thank you, sir. Mark?
Okay, well, I definitely am very attuned to this issue. I would support referendum number 3, which is the cleaner, safer ships that don't pollute the water. I would certainly not support 1 or 2 because number 1 is under 1,300 passengers. Number 3 is under 15. You can't do that. What's going to happen here is you're going to have what's called a takings lawsuit by the West End because you're taking away their money. The merchants of the Duval Street area depend on that money, and I can rest assuredly tell you that Royal Caribbean doesn't have any small ships. Okay, they just sent 2 to the scrapyard over in Turkey. You can look it up on YouTube. It's right there yesterday, 2 days ago. As terms of, we need this. If you were to get rid of the cruise ships, you would only have had 12 cruise ships come into the city of Key West last year. You'll have a 98% reduction in disembarkation of cruise ship passengers. And always remember one important thing, that cruise ship passengers that get off those cruise ships see Key West, they love it, and they come back here and they stay in the hotels and they eat in the restaurants and they spend their monies in the art galleries.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Question for all 3 candidates, please.
Of course it is.
I'll be as quick as possible. Would your position on the cruise ship referendums change, for example, if the city of Key West relinquished $1.7 million in revenues, only to have the ships and associated businesses move, say, 3 miles away to a new port facility on Stock Island?
Mark, why don't you start?
Well, that's not going to happen. I can tell you that right now. There would not be a new cruise ship port on Stock Island. Okay. What is the rest of the question?
If that were the case, would your position on the referendums change?
Well, I want to be perfectly clear. I'll listen to the voters of the city of Key West. And if the voters of the city of Key West don't vote in the do vote in the referendums, then I'll do what the referendums say to do. Okay? But you better have a plan to follow up on the revenue source that'll be disappearing. You already have a 3% 3% deficit in the budget right now with another 5% projected. So that's 8% worth of revenue that you're going to lose on cruise ships. So this is a serious referendum, but whatever the residents of this fine community say, I will do. Believe me.
All right, Mandy, I guess Terry.
Is it? Okay. All right. Well, first I'd like to start off by saying the 3% and 5% that Mark just talked about has nothing to do with cruise ships. I mean, we came in at a budget, a balanced budget actually, that requested 3% above rollback from last year. And what we do is we put a cushion on that because state statute says that we can only reduce our rates instead of raising them. And we're right in the middle of hurricane season. So we have been doing this for 15 years, adding the cushion on there. So that really doesn't have anything to do with cruise ships. Would it change my position at all if the cruise ships decided to go to the deepwater port in Stock Island? Right. And I don't believe it would.
Okay.
Okay. Rick, Stock Island.
So can we get back to your question?
Yes.
Can you ask me that again? Because I think we heard a lot of...
Would your position on the cruise ship referendums change, for example, if the city relinquished $1.7 million in cruise ship fee revenues, only to have the ships and associated businesses move 3 miles away to a deepwater port facility on Stock Island?
Okay, so I'm not sure that the number is $1.7 million in disembarkation fees, but if that were the case...
Sorry, indirect revenue, sorry about that.
Right. So, I understand. I just want to be clear that I'm answering your question. So, would my position on the referendum change? No, because my referendum position is based on the environmental record and that we are inviting safer, cleaner ships not ships that are tied to a certain number for a special interest group. So my position would not change if they moved it up to Marathon. My position wouldn't change wherever they moved it, because my position remains that I support cleaner, safer ships with good environmental records.
Thank you, everybody.
Stephanie.
You want me to pick just one, right?
It would be nice if we could do a round with just one.
Okay.
Move
All
through a
right.
little better.
All right.
Then
We're
I
gonna run
guess
out of time.
I'll ask this question to Mr. Rossi then. As a resident of Bahama Village, I get to spend a lot of my free time driving around looking for parking. So much to the point that sometimes I refuse to see my friends or go to businesses where I would have to drive because I don't want to lose the valuable parking spot that I have found. What can we do to make parking better in Key West?
Well, you know, we could build a couple parking garages. I've been hammered for that for a long time, but to be honest with you, I think you could build the parking garage where Old City Hall was. You could blend it into the landscape there. Maybe down at Truman Waterfront, you could, you know, put a little parking lot down there. You got the parking lot over at the courthouse that's possible there to work. And I will tell you straightforward that I want to reduce the parking fees for the employees of the city, and reduce the parking fees for the employees downtown on Duval Street. But yeah, parking is a very, very important part, especially down in Bahama Village, because there's no place to park. I would work to see if we could find out or find a way to improve that. And I'm open to that.
Okay, sounds good. Bill?
Question for Mark. What should the city do with Poinciana Gardens?
Well, I can tell you what the city needs to do. The city needs some leadership to get with the county, all right, and close down Bayshore Manor and move the residents from Bayshore Manor over to Poinciana. Let me reiterate this. The residents of Bayshore Manor, the Convalescent Center, and also Poinciana have paid their taxes in this community for over the last 40 or 50 years. They deserve a beautiful place for them to retire for the rest of their lives. I personally know two families that have their parents out there, okay, not a few, and they are very happy with it, but what needs to be done is it needs to be taken over by the county and the city as a joint venture and ran. I hear this, oh, you're going to bring the rehabilitation centers interested in running it, and I got this other thing. Well, I have to check my facts, but I don't think the rehabilitation center is really paying the bills out there, to be honest with you. I think they're having a hard time. And the reason I could say this is I had an elderly father who was 95, God bless his soul, was my best friend, and I got to sit there and see what goes on with the convalescent centers. So I'm very in tune to it.
But it's bleeding red ink.
Well,
And,
we'll have to do it to another,
okay, go ahead.
we go on and on. Any one of these subjects could be all night. Jennifer?
This question is for Mayor Johnston. One thing we have learned with the virus outbreak is that the healthier we are as individuals, the better we are able to protect ourselves from the devastating health effects of the pandemic or any other virus. What specific actions can the city of Key West take to make the city a healthier destination to live and visit?
Well, I think the first thing is that we all need to mask up. I mean, we've been talking tonight and all throughout the pandemic is that we need to listen to the science and we need to listen to the healthcare experts. And it is our healthcare experts in Dr. Whiteside and Dr. Boris and Dr. Norris and Bob Eady that keeps saying that right now for us to get healthy as a community, we've got to mask up. And we've got to mask up everywhere that you cannot social distance. So that's our real thrust right now.
So what outside of COVID, I understand all of that, but outside of COVID, infrastructure projects, anything that the city can do to help the community be healthier and to attract healthier people that are interested in health and wellness?
Well, I think the thing that we can do is really education, is to how do you get healthy, how do you stay healthy, and how do you promote a healthy lifestyle. And to me, that comes from education from the city.
Okay, to Mr. Haskins. Short-term rentals inside Truman Annex are scheduled to expire in 2025, 5 years from now. There's been early discussions among some property owners there about already applying to seek an extension to their authority to rent short-term. Would you support such an extension that would continue to allow short-term rentals beyond 2025 at Truman Annex?
So, great that I get that question, right? I wonder why. It doesn't have anything to do with me having anything to do with vacation rentals or real estate. I would support it personally, but I would ask the community that's in Truman Annex and the homeowners that are in there what they think. I just think that as a real estate agent, I recognize that they bought those houses with a certain expectation that they were going to be able to rent them, and that they do expire in 2025, so they all kind of know that that's a possibility. But I think that right now we're talking about reduction in revenue for the city, and I don't know that that will even be recovered by 2025 where it comes to our budget. So I'm not sure that right now is another time to be talking about reducing another way that the city makes money. In short, my answer is yes, I would support it if the citizens do. I would just have to listen to the people that are directly affected, which I'm sure you know is the reason I'm running.
So you would support an extension to continuing to allow the short-term
I would
rentals?
absolutely support the extension of the property owner's rights if the people in Truman Annex that are directly affected, if that's what they want, absolutely.
Thank you.
Stephanie, we're doing okay with time. Evidently, we're still fighting issues, but we're going to keep going. In case anybody really wants to see this again quickly, Clinton will probably have it up on our website late tonight or early tomorrow morning because he has no life. But we're going to keep forging on. Stephanie, and we have some time since nobody can hear us anyway, so ask whatever you want.
For Mr. Rossi and Mr. Haskins, I think we know how the mayor currently feels about this, but...
We'll let her give a little opinion anyway.
Sure,
But
all right.
Rossi,
Two-part, yes or no, both of these questions. Would you keep a mask mandate in place if elected? And do you believe masks are making our community safer?
Who's starting? Todd?
Todd, you want to?
no, she said Mark, well, actually that worked. Mark, Rick, then Terry, if she wants to.
Okay.
Will work fine.
Okay, well, we'll keep the mask mandate in place till the pandemic is over. So yes, I choose to wear a mask because it's the right thing to do. I personally don't think that when you're out exercising and you're practicing social distancing of 6 or 8 feet and you're out running and in this hot heat, that you really need to have a mask on. So I would change that for sure. I saw that the city commission found it in their heart to give the wedding people at least a nice picture for honeymooners and wedding people that come down here, a chance to take a picture without a mask. I can tell you that I see it down on Duval Street. We did a debate down at the Green Pineapple the other day, and there was a lot of people that weren't wearing masks and that were walking on Duval Street. But I do choose to wear a mask for safety of everyone, and I would support a mask mandate to the point that this is over.
Rick, masks.
Surprisingly, I would actually listen to the people that are charged with telling us whether this works or not. So I know that we had some gym owners that spoke up on this mask mandate, and we had some doctors that spoke up on the mask mandate. And speaking as somebody who actually goes to the gym and works out every day, I believe that we should have heard out the doctors, including the doctors that we want to hear, that we should have listened to them when they say if you're socially distant, we shouldn't be forcing them to wear a mask while they're exercising. Or I just think that the city's opening itself up to liability and opening businesses up to liability where they are forced to wear a mask when they're exerting a lot of energy. I think that people have tried to make me out as an anti-masker. I think I am the person most singly responsible for passing out the most masks. I've passed out 1,000. They all have my name on it, masks and buffs. I wear it all the time. My parents we have them under lock and key. I do support whatever rules are in place. I just think that if we're going to make rules as a city, we need to hear everybody out and act on what we hear.
Thanks, Rick. Terry, you can.
Well, you know where I stand on it. And it's simply based on the science and the numbers. We have been told by every healthcare professional in the city of Key West that that's our one tool in the box right now. And we can either use it or we're not going to use it. But that is the one situation that we have right now that can get us healthy. In fact, Bob even made the comment the other day that, if 70 or 80% of everyone in Key West wore a mask for just 2 weeks, we would see our numbers go down dramatically. And that's the whole ballgame right here. is that we've got to keep our numbers down. We've got to keep our hospital up and functioning in order for us to stay open. You know, it's just, that's the bottom line.
Who was that with?
Question for Rick. Vacation rentals. How do you think vacation rentals have changed the character of Key West residential neighborhoods?
How do I think they've changed the character? So that's a great question. I'd have to think about it. I think that they certainly have gotten some people fired up about whether they should be allowed or not in those areas. But I think with the right regulation and with the right enforcement, just like everything else that people see may or may not be wrong with the city right now, I think with the right enforcement, the vacation rentals are a property right. And they're something that, like I said, when people buy houses, they expect that they're able to rent them for 28 days or whatever. I do think that there's some give there, where if people aren't using their houses for low-cost rentals or long-term rentals, that there probably should be some extra fees. I think they do pay them right now if they're paying the extra tourist development tax. But I think if they've changed the character at all, I'm the only one that can say I'm born and raised here and watched all these changes happen. And I would say that I love everybody that I see here. I love the people that have been coming to visit. So if they've changed the character, I think it's been for the best.
Jennifer.
This question is for Mark. Currently, the tree commission is set by the mayor, where the mayor appoints all members of the tree commission. Do you think that that is a good system, or would you like to see that changed to where each commissioner has an appointment?
Well, I can tell you that from firsthand knowledge. I think that each commissioner should be able to appoint a person on the tree commission. And I tell you what, the tree commission, personally, I don't see it working very well. I recently was renovating some properties over on Flagler Avenue, and unfortunately I had a poinciana tree that had grown through the foundation and had to cut it down. And I went to the tree commission and they told me, you have to do this, you have to do that, it's so much of a diameter, and you got to plant fruit trees and this and that. Okay, so when I went to get my building final on it, I went and bought the fruit trees that I thought were fruit trees. Well, come lo and behold, doesn't work. You got to go, Mr. Rossi, and get this tree and that tree. And then when I couldn't do it because there were thousands of dollars for the trees, I had to pay $2,700 mitigation fee to go ahead and get that permit lifted. Okay? And I want to make a point. I love poinciana trees. I think they are the most beautiful trees in the city. Okay? And I would push to have the tree commission, it already is, poinciana tree is the tree of the city, but I want to see more poinciana trees, and I want to see the commissioners appoint their own representative to that board.
Thank you, Mark. And go for poincianas.
Randy. Mayor Johnston.
Yes.
At last count, there were more than 35 shuttered storefronts on Duval Street and dozens of commercial property lease listings on MLS. What can be done to stop the bleeding and hasten Key West's economic recovery, specifically for small business owners?
Well, first of all, we got to get healthy. We got to get healthy as a community so we can stay open as a community, so that we can, start welcoming people back in, start holding our festivals, start, fantasy fest, boat races, all of those types of things are going to keep our businesses healthy. But to do that, to have a healthy economy, and I'm sorry I keep drilling this into everybody's head, but to have a healthy economy, we got to have a healthy community. We can't do one without the other. They're not independent of each other. And the second thing that we're doing, Mandy, is that we are, you may have seen the city commission meeting the other night where we awarded the contract to Elisa Levy Consultant for our strategic planning. The very first thing that she is going to do is an interdisciplinary task force in order to help our economy get up and running. And it's going to be based on business owners, on our healthcare professionals, on a number of different entities in the city of Key West. But that's our number one goal as far as planning is, to help them get up. And also, I just want to mention the mom and pops that you heard the other night, because it's fascinating. We have about 9,000 business tax licenses in the city of Key West, and the chamber and the guild represent less than 10% of those. So we got a lot of people out there without a voice that we have to give a voice, listen to, and help be successful.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty much time. We're quarter after. Do you guys have any compelling questions that you didn't get to ask, or? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a, Bill, because Bill is retiring, he gets one last shot.
Okay, just question for each of the candidates. One word answer from each of you. If you come in third, which of the other candidates would you endorse?
This is a one-word answer. I know that is
One-word
virtually
answer.
impossible.
Last name only?
Wow.
But Bill asked the question, so let's, Terry start.
God, Bill, I can't answer with one word. I'm gonna support the candidate with the strongest platform to move Key West forward in a positive manner. Okay?
Mark.
I know that wasn't one word, I'm sorry.
Mark, give us your non-one-word answer.
Well, I can tell you, it'll be this man right here.
Yeah.
All right. And Rick?
I don't have that to worry about.
No, you got it? That's a non-answer.
I think that we've seen that the city hasn't been listening, so I would support Mark Rossi.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, well, that was your answer. So, closing comments, or closing statement, a minute. I had a little star, so we're gonna start with Rick and end with Terry. Go, come on down. So Rick, start us off.
With this is the 2-minute close?
This is it. Well, it's
1 minute.
1 minute, but I'm gonna let you finish your thought, so.
I feel like this debate has been another example of how people don't get to be heard and you don't get to listen. So please, 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 on August 18th, if you feel the same way that I do, that you have not been heard and they are not listening, you have to go out and vote. Most of our issues right now are around enforcement. So we need to concentrate on enforcement. We need to concentrate on our environment, but our real environment, not bushes, but trees. And not numbers of cruise ships, but we need to concentrate on the actual environment, our canopy, our water, and whatever that means in relation to cruise ships, then we have to do it. But the other thing we have to do, first and foremost, is get this city back to a place where we love each other, where everything is relaxed and laid back the way it was before. We don't need to rethink who comes here, who can stay here, what businesses are here. We don't need to rethink any of that. We just need to recenter and get back on where the Key West that brought everybody in this room here.
Thank you, Rick. Right on time. So you didn't need 2 minutes. Mark?
Well, I stand for strong leadership. I stand for accessibility. I stand for a strong economy. I'm looking to take care of the working class families in this community. I want to make this public statement that I will bring the community together, all groups after this election, and get everybody back on the same page so we're all looking at the same things that we need to, the love of this community. Because if we don't have a togetherness and get everything together, we're going to continue down the road of what we are right now, splintered. And to get back after this terrible disease and what we've been through the last couple of weeks, we're going to need reconciliation with everyone. Okay, I do have some plans I want to bring up about the diesel plant over there at the Truman Waterfront. I have some ideas for that, turning that into a convention center. I want to work with the military. I have a strong working relationship with the military, and I could probably work some deals out for Point 6B. And I also want to talk about the nursing home. That's very important to me, is taking care of our senior citizens in our community. So that's where I'm at on August the 18th. Please vote for Mark Rossi. I will bring strong leadership to your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Terry?
Well, thank you so
Last words
much.
of the evening.
Thank you very much. I've been mayor now for 20 months, and we have had incredible progress in the 20 months. I've engaged our citizens. They've been out painting street signs. They've been cleaning up Mallory Square. We've been rehabbing the historic cemetery, and we've just done some great things. We've repaved Duval Street for the first time in 44 years and without impacting a business on Duval Street. We've got lots of other things in store, but right now, I'm going to focus on 3 things for this community. I'm going to get us healthy, I am going to reboot our economy, and I am going to put people back to work. And as you saw from the City Commission meeting the other night, we had unanimous support for a strategic plan, because now more than ever, we need a plan, a short and a mid-range plan, in order to bring us back. We're going to be a different Key West than we were before we went into this COVID pandemic. But that's not to say we can't be a much, much better Key West. We have some of the brightest, smartest, most successful people in the United States that live right here. You know, if we can't figure out a different business plan, a modified business plan, based on the tourism market that we're going to have post-COVID, then I'm not sure who can. So for a strong economy, for a quality of life in our community, vote Terry Johnston. Let's continue to make progress in the next term. Thank you so much.
Thank all of you. Okay, everyone, and everybody on TV land, we can't apologize enough for the technical issues. I don't know, for some people it seems like it was terrible, others said it wasn't so bad. We will have a recording. The recording should have 0 defects other than us. And as always, the candidates are welcome to use our video. There's no copyright on it. Cut it up, do it. I think Clinton tends to cut it up anyway to make it real easy for everybody, so please use it at your leisure. And we will see you, we're going to have a couple events for the general election. Stay tuned, and we will have our audio worked out if we have to bring in fiber line into ourselves. So, thanks, and everybody vote.